So today we'll be going through two parts. First one is HTTP status codes. Then the second part is headers. The headers could be request headers or response headers. We have already seen what is a request, what is a response in task 2. So now let's get into task 4, that is status codes. Now what is a status code? We discussed earlier as well that whenever you send a request to a server or a website, the server responds with a particular code, okay, a number, a digit number, okay. Based on that number we can identify whether the request was successful, whether there is any issue with our request, or whether we should perform some other actions and things like that. A simple example would be, for example, if I show you on this particular website only, and I will load this website and I will show you how you can see that status code. So on Chrome, if you go to more tools, like from developer tools on Firefox or Chrome or any other browser, you can see it that way also. Here on Chrome we can go to more tools, developer tools. Firefox also we have seen it earlier how you can open developer tools, okay. So now see, if I go to network tab, here I will be able to see what are the requests or responses being sent out between our browser and website. So now if I load this website, you will see that there is a request for this particular page, okay. It is a get request to this particular endpoint, and the status code from the response, the status code is 200, okay. Now based on this status code we can understand that our request was processed by server successfully. What it means is, when we ask the server to give us the page that is at this particular endpoint, server responded like this, okay, this is the actual page. So that's why it was success, and based on these status codes we understand whether the request was successful or not, okay. They are different status codes. So here you can see it also. If you refer to burp suite as well, there also you can see it in the response. However, it is going to look different compared to developer tools. So if I open burp suite and I will try to show it to you for the same website, let's try to open our embedded browser. Just a moment. It is under intercept, yeah. So we'll open our embedded browser, and here I will try to show you what how the request is being interpreted by server and what status code we see in the response. So I will access this website. I will turn on the intercept here so that I intercept this request, whatever we are sending. So once I press enter, you can see there is a request, get request being sent to this particular website for this particular path. Okay, so it's asking for the root page for this particular website. What I will do, I will intercept the response by right clicking on it, do intercept and response to this request. Now whatever response would come for this request, we will be able to see it. So I will forward it in the response, right. So this is how actually request and responses looks like in the backend. So in the response you can see the status code is 200, okay. So in burp suite you can see it like this, okay. So these status codes only we will be referring to now, just to understand what is the meaning of each and every status code, okay. So yeah, now let's get back to TryHackMe. So there are different ranges of status codes. First one is from 100 to 199, second one is 200 to 299, 300 to 399, 400 to 499, and 500 to 599. Now on a broader view, if you see, all the status codes that belongs to 100 to 199, those are actually information responses, okay. So in case we are asking for something and website is just providing us some information, then these kind of status codes are returned in the response. If response is something like 200, 201, 203, like up to 299, it can be configured in any way. It means our request was a success, like the website successfully completed that task and it is responding with that status code. So it's mostly a success only. So yeah, you can see that the request was processed successfully. 300 to 399 is always redirection, means whatever request we have sent, right. For example, sometimes what happens, if we send this particular request, right. Just a moment. if we send this kind of request uh, to the server asking for like the page of this particular website, okay, what server responds with, it responds with the 300 code, and in the response it would say that this page is not available here, go to a different URL, means it's asking us to redirect to a different page, okay. So all those status codes like 300 range belongs to the redirection range, okay. So whenever we get a status code, in that case most of the time you will see that in there would be a header called location as well in the response header, and we have to request that link so that we get the proper website URL. For example, if we are asking for this page and in the response it is telling us like 301 or 302, and in the location header here there is a like new header, I can't insert it here, but there is a location header and there is an endpoint. So it means that now we are supposed to go to that endpoint, okay, that's what that response means. So let we'll see it hopefully in action as well. So 300 to 399 these belongs to redirection. 400 to 499 belongs to client error, like some errors because of the client, okay. What I mean by client is like because of the users, like they are not sending a request properly or there is something missing from their side, okay, like something is missing in the request. So that's what it means. 500 to 599 is server errors, means if the server is not able to process our request for any reason, it could be an error on the server side, it could be like a lot of requests are coming to the server and server is not able to process all of those in parallel, then also you get these 500 range errors, status code, oh my bad. So yeah, those belongs to server errors. Now we'll just go through the most common ones here from these ranges as well. If we talk about 200 range, okay, so the first one is 200 okay, which mostly means, see, one thing is these status codes can always be configured by a website, okay. Like they can respond you a 200 okay even though it is the request is not successful, okay. But most of the time, like by default it means the request was successful, okay. But the website owners do have the capability to like to tweak these status codes always, okay. So that's one point. Just because you see in the response that 200 okay is there, that doesn't mean that request was successful, okay, because it depends on the website as well. But most of the time you will see normally it will mean that request was successful only. So 200 okay means request was successful. 201 means created. Most of the time it means a record is created, means whenever you are registering your account on a particular website, like you are creating your profile, then in the response mostly you get a 201 means your account is created, like that. 301 means permanent redirect. So what it will mean that what will happen, let me show you. If I send the same request to the repeater right now, see in the response you get this page, right, HTML body and response headers and everything. But right now I can't modify responses, we can't modify in from Burpsuite. But normally what happens whenever you are going to get 301, here there will be another header like server, there would be another header called location, there would be a URL given there. What it means that we are supposed to go to that URL. So that's what 301 means, okay. Now there is two redirect, one is permanent, there is another one is temporary. Permanent redirect means whatever path or whatever URL you are right now requesting, that is permanently moved to another URL. That's what it means. Temporary one means that it is just temporarily redirected, means in future it may not get redirected, but for the time being whatever URL you are requesting, it is redirect, it is, you are supposed to go to a different URL, but it's not permanent. Maybe in future it is not required, you may get whatever you want by requesting the main URL only, you are not supposed to go to another URL, okay. So that's what it means. 400 is bad request. So suppose right now, see, if this is the request that we are sending, now if in this request if I put like random data, or like if I try to mess with this particular website, you see that right now I modified it, I didn't get any response as of now. But most of the time if you send a bad request, okay, something is missing in your request, then you will get a 400 response in the uh, response from the website. Okay, so that's what it means. Now we have a 401. Most of the time whenever you are not logged in, okay, like you have not provided your username and password to a website and you are trying to access a sensitive page, for example, suppose, just a moment, yeah, suppose you are trying to access this particular endpoint, like this is our website, testphp.oneweb.com, right? Instead of accessing this root page, you are trying to access slash profile. So on this website you are trying to access slash profile. Okay, now suppose this page is only allowed to be seen by users who have provided their username and password, okay, like who are authenticated user. So in that case, I am just randomly I'm putting it here, but in that case you will be getting a 401 response, means you are not authorized. Okay, so that's what it means. Now there is a very thin line between 401 and 403 actually. 401 actually means you didn't even provide your username and password. Okay, but 403 means you did provide your credentials. Okay, but still with your privileges or with your account's power, okay, you are not allowed to access that page. For example, sometimes some of the URLs are only allowed to be seen by admin users, so only admin users can access those particular functionality. So if you try to access that functionality being a normal user, you are going to get a 403, means forbidden. You do not have enough permission to see that page even though you are authenticated. Okay, so that's a kind of access control implemented there, that you do not have enough access for that particular endpoint. 405 mostly means, suppose you are sending, instead of get, you are sending a post request, or like these HTTP methods we had discussed earlier as well. Sometimes whenever you try to send some other uh, HTTP methods, then what you will get 405 means that method is not supported by the website. Okay, like you cannot send that particular method on that particular endpoint. Okay, so whenever you get it, that means the website is not responding to that kind of HTTP methods. Okay, like if you are earlier when you were sending get to a endpoint, you are able to get the page, right? You are able to get the page. Now I'm just guessing, let's try to change this get method to post and see how the website is responding. Post also, see, even though there is nothing there, you still see the page actually. Okay, so still the post is also working as a get request only, server is responding to post as well. Suppose if we request with delete method, so see 405 not allowed. It means that you are not allowed to send this delete HTTP method on this endpoint. So that's what it means. 404, I guess everyone has seen, whenever on a particular website you go try to go to a page which doesn't even exist, like I am trying to go to Tomb Raider page. So in those cases you get a 404, found not found. Okay, so that is like page doesn't exist. Okay, so that's the error. Now 500 and 503 is there. Internal service error, like whenever you are sending a request and server is not sure how to handle it, okay, then it is going to give you a 500 error. Whenever you get some 500 errors, okay, you should be like as a pen tester or as a bug bounty hunter, you should be analyzing those requests specifically, because whatever you have sent, okay, it caused an error on the server side. So maybe you are able to utilize that particular request in a way to exploit or like to find a vulnerability on the server. Okay, so it can be done. Then we have 503. This one means that the service, wherever like you are sending the request, okay, that service is down. You will get it, suppose someone is trying to perform a DDoS attack. Okay, what is DDoS attacks? um, if you send a lot of requests to a particular website, okay, the website would come down. Mostly you have seen it on websites like Flipkart, right? On some sale, right? If you try to access this e-commerce website, this would be down a lot of for a longer period of time. So in that case, if you are trying to access it, you will be getting a 503, means that website is not available right now. So whenever the service is not available, it will give you 503. Okay. So now these questions, let's see if we can answer these. Okay. So yeah. So now what response code might you receive if you create a new user? So whenever you create a new user, you get a 201 mostly. If you try to access a page that doesn't exist, you will get 404. What response code might you receive if the web server cannot access its database? So there is some issue with the web server, means it would be either 500 or 503 because service is not available. Then if we are editing a profile without logging in first, it will give you 401 because we are not logged in, we didn't provide our credentials. So yeah, that's all about the status codes. Okay. So now let's move on to the headers part. This is also important because until unless you understand what kind of data is being sent in the request or how the data is being sent in the request, also how what kind of data you are receiving in the response and things like this, you are not going to like at least understand how the website is working. Okay. So headers, I will show you again from our previous. Here, like when we are trying to get the main page, right, for this website we are trying to get the slash, that is the main page, like the home page of this website. All of these parameters that is containing a colon, right, these all things are headers. Actually these are called request headers. Also in the response, everything with this colon and part like this, all of these are headers, but these are response headers. Okay, so these are coming in the response, that means it is the response headers. So few of these are, you can see here as well on this Try Hack Me website. First one is host. Okay, so let's compare it to this part. Okay, so this host part, it will contain the name of the main website. Okay, wherever you are sending the request. Okay, so in our case it was testphp.vulnerweb.com. Okay, so that is the website name where we are sending the request. Okay, just the website name, not the endpoint. Endpoint is mentioned here instead of like wherever you are sending the request, it would be mentioned after get space, that point would be here. So right now we are trying to get the home page, that's why it is slash. If it was like a profile page, then it would be like slash profile, or however the website it built, but the path would be here and website name would be under the host section. Okay, user agent we have discussed earlier as well, that it tells what browser you are using right now. So in the user agent section you can see a long string here, but this part, right, this part like Chrome and a bit information about your operating system as well, it tells the website that from what browser you are using or from where the request is coming from. Okay, so just it tells the website uh, how this request is generated. Okay, like from what medium, whether it is from a browser, whether it is from a tool, things like that. Okay, so that's how the user agent is used by the website wherever you are sending the request. Content length, okay, you will see content length where whenever you send a body in the request. So I will show you where we will be sending a body. If we try to log into this particular website only, okay, on our test PHP, let me show you here. Let me turn on the intercept. If you try to log into this website using test and test, it is going to send a post request, right? Because whenever you are supposed to send data, you use post methods. A request is being sent, you see a post method being sent to this particular endpoint like userinfo.php. This is our website, but in after all these headers there is an empty line, and this is the request body we have discussed earlier as well. And whatever is the size of this whole request body, that is actually mentioned in the content length. So this is 20 right now, right? So we'll just count these. So this is 5, 6, 10, 11, 11 and 4, 15, and then 5, 20. So whatever characters, how many characters are there in the request body, that is being sent in the content length. So server actually understand how much data is coming. Okay, or the website understand how much data is coming. Okay, so that is what, that's why content length is used. Now then accept encoding. This particular, let's see if we have it here or not. Yeah, it is here. So accept encoding means that it tells the website, okay, like from our side, okay, as a user we are telling the website, okay, what kind of um, compression, okay, like in what kind of compressed size you can send the data back, okay, like whether it could be a zip, okay, here you can see, right, it could be like it is telling the website that you can send the compressed data in this format actually, okay, zip, okay, so that's what it means. There is one more header that is not mentioned here, which is important. This is accept. What accept means that we are telling the website in what format we want the data, okay, like whether we want the data in an image file, like whether we are requesting for an image file, whether we want JSON formatted data, whether we want XML formatted data, whether we want HTML file. Right now we are sending a request where we are telling this website that we would accept even if the response is HTML, even if it is XML, even if it is like kind of an image, okay, so these all these different formats we are expecting, okay, if you respond back with that data we will accept it, okay, so that's what this accept means. So that's what one thing is. And content length we discussed. Content type we didn't discuss. Content type is also important thing. This one will tell the website actually in what format we are sending the data, okay, so this data right now we are sending, right, uname equals to test ampersand pass equals to test, right, it the format of it is, it's a like www forum URL encoded. It means that whatever data we are sending, it is a form data but URL encoded. What it means is in URL encoded, what happens whenever you use space, okay, it gets uh, suppose in the past I want to send test spacing, okay, if I try to send this data, server is not going to able to understand because it is not URL encoded. URL encoded is something where the space gets converted to percentage 20. So if I right click on it, I URL encode, convert selection URL and URL encode. Okay, it could be a plus, it could be a, even if you use percentage 20, it's going to work. So that's what this URL encoded means. Okay, so yeah, based on this content type, we tell the server in what format we are sending the data. Based on the accept, we tell the server in what kind of format we want the data. Okay, so that's the basic difference between these two. Then we have cookie. Cookie we have discussed a lot of times earlier as well, that uh, yeah, it's something like just to make sure server knows who you are, okay, to verify your identity. Most of the time we send some data in the cookies, okay, here you see there is no cookies because server so far doesn't know who we are, okay, server will only know who we are once we provide the valid username and password to it. So for example, now if I forward this request, we got logged in, right, now let's see what was the response of that post request. This was the request that we sent. In the response we got 200, okay, and focus on this part, set cookie. So once we provided the website our username and password, the website returned with the cookies, that now on send these cookies so that we are able to verify who you are, okay. So now whenever we send a request on this website, for example, if I go or if I like update this name to test, okay, you will see that these cookies we will be sending instead of username and password. So this is the request that is being sent, and here you can see in the cookie part, where is it, yeah, in the cookie part we are using the same cookie that was assigned to us in the previous response, right. So these cookies whenever we send it, what we would be able to do, we don't have to provide username and password, the website would be able to identify us based on the cookies only, okay. So that's why we use cookies to tell the website who we are, okay. Now we will go through the common response headers. Set cookie, we just saw an example that the server is always going to respond with a set cookie which we are supposed to send in different requests so that the server is able to identify who we are. Okay, so whenever we log in, okay, whenever we try to log in or whenever we try to sign up for an account, in the response we get cookies. Okay, and those cookies we are supposed to use in all the subsequent requests so that server is able to distinguish us compared to other users. Okay, so cookies has to be unique for every user. If the cookies are matching for two or more users, then it's an issue actually. Okay, because server won't be able to identify who is sending the request. Okay, so that's why the cookies has to be unique for every user. Now we have a cache control. It's not mandatory, it is sent all the time. Let's see if we have it in our request. Cache control, no, we don't have it as of now. Okay, we don't have it, but cache control, it contains some data. Okay, there would be some value assigned to it, and it means cache means like a temporary or local storage of a website page only. So it tells the browser how long it has to keep using that cache only before it requests for a like latest page. Okay, like before it sends the actual request to the server. So that's what that number you will get under cache control, like how long you are supposed to use the local version of that website only or that website page only before you send a request to the main website. Content type also, in the response also content type comes. Okay, like here if you look at this request, okay, is there any, okay, in the response you see, is there a content type? Yeah. So in this request, when we sent our username and password, in the response you can see content type is text HTML, which means that the whole body that is being returned right in the response, that is an HTML body. Okay, so that's how our browser is going to process this whole body as a HTML only. Okay, because until unless you tell the browser type what kind of data came in the response, okay, the browser is not going to understand what kind of format the response body is in. Okay, so that's why we have to like the server would send the content type in the response as well, which will tell browser what kind of data the server is sending to the browser. Okay, so that's the same thing. Content type could be present in the request as well. Like when we are sending the data, we tell the browser what kind of, we tell the website in what format we are sending the data. Also, when we get the response, the website also tells the browser in what kind of format it responded back. Okay, it could be anything like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, images, PDF, video, anything. Okay, now content encoding, if it is also coming in the response, let's see if we have it here. Okay, in this request we don't have it, but what it means, it's similar to accept encoding. In accept encoding we tell the website, like from browser side we tell the website that in what kind of compression we will accept the data. Okay, in content encoding, when we see it in the response body or response headers, it means what compression method is used to send the data back. Okay, it's not required to compress the data all the time, like website are not going to send it all the time, but sometimes what happens if the data is large or if it can't be sent in a single request, then this content encoding is used to compress the data, and how the data is encoded, that you will see under the content encoding only. Okay, so that's all about these headers. Let's complete these few questions here, and then we are done. What headers tells the web server what browser is being used? So it is used like the our browser will always send a user agent header, and based on that the website can understand what browser we are using. What header tells the browser what type of data is being returned? So that is content length. Like in the response as well we get content length. Just a moment. What header tells the browser what type of data? Okay, just a moment. Okay, my bad, not content length. Content length
Content
contains the,
type.
yeah, content type. What header tells the web server which website is being requested? So the main website name is always under the host. So yeah, so yeah, That's all for today. We discussed about HTTP status codes. We discussed about headers. In the headers, we had request headers and response headers as well. So that's all for today. Thanks for joining, guys.